Hi guys, welcome to the video on the solutions for the 2.3 through 2.4 practice test. And we always say, hey, this is your best friend because you know you're going to have a real test over this pretty soon and you want to get good grades in here. So I've decided to name my test Geraldo. I don't know, that sounds like a smart person who can help me on my test. So that's the name I've given my practice test. My best friend, Geraldo. Alright, so let's get right to it. What do we got here? Identify the slope and y-intercept from the given equation. So we're in what we call slope-intercept form. And that's nice, so all we have to do is find slope and y-intercept. Well, remember guys, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So the m is the number that's multiplying the x. Okay, so what number is multiplying the x up here? Well, yeah, the 3/4 is multiplying the x up here. Notice I did not highlight the x here, and I did not highlight the x here. The x is not part of the slope. The number in front of the x is part of the slope. We call that the coefficient of x. That's the smarty-farty word of saying it's being multiplied to the x. So we now can say that the slope is equal to 3/4. Now, what about the y-intercept? The y-intercept is b. Okay? B is the y-intercept. It's the number we're adding or subtracting to the x. Okay? So it's the number we're adding or subtracting to the x. And what number are we adding or subtracting to the x? So here's the b here, there's the b here. The number we're adding or subtracting to the x is 2. And so there you go. The y-intercept is 2. And we're done. Okay, so for number 2, it's a little bit of extra work, but not too bad. So when you have y plus 8 equals negative 5x, remember guys, you want it in slope-intercept form. So y equals mx plus b. And that means that y has to be all by itself on the left side. Now, in this case, it's not. There's a plus 8. So all I'm going to do is just simply subtract 8 from both sides. Because I don't want this 8 on this side. I want it gone. I want it to be 0, so I just have y. Well, 8 minus 8 is 0. That's all we need to do there. So that will just give us a y on this side, because those 8's cancel. Now, you cannot take negative 5x and subtract 8. You just can't do it. This has an x, this does not. So you just kind of write it in a line, and I like to put that x out in front, so negative 5x goes first, minus the 8 that we subtracted from both sides. Now, what is the slope? Well, the slope is the number in front of the variable. Slope is m. So what number is in front of the x variable? Yeah, it's that negative 5 right there. So slope equals negative 5. And notice, I want to point this out. We do not include the x with the slope. You will miss this problem if you put an x here. That will mark it wrong. Do not put the x with the slope. It's just the number in front of the x. Now, the next thing is we need b. Well, I think we made B green, so let's go ahead and do that. So whatever B is, so we need plus B. Well, what's plus B in this one? Well, it's definitely the 8, but this minus has to kind of tag along as a negative. So we can say B is negative 8. And if we wanted to write that as a coordinate, we'd say 0, negative 8. This is another way to write it. This is how you write the y-intercept as a coordinate, 0, negative 8. And if you're just saying the y-intercept, negative 8. So either one of these are fine. Negative 8 for the y-intercept or 0, negative 8. And you're done. All right, number 3. What are we going to do on number 3? Now, the nice thing about number 3, we're already in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I want to do is I want to just go off to the side and I actually want to list what's my M and what's my B. Well, M is the number in front of the X. And what is the number in front of the X? Yeah, it's the 3. Now, I'm also going to put a 1 underneath it because I'm going to be graphing. And when I'm graphing, I like to see my rise over my run. Now, what's the B? B is the y-intercept. And what is it there yet? Yeah, it's just the 1 right there. So it's the 1. So this is my M and this is my B. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and graph my B. Remember how we wrote it as a coordinate in number 2? It's 0, 1. So that's another way to say B is 0, 1. Or if you just know it's on the y-axis, you can just put a point here at 1. Now, after I put that point there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my slope to make more points. So from this point, from my B, I'm going to rise 3. I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to run 1. I always run to the right. I don't care if it's negative or positive. That'll tell me up or down. But I always run to the right unless I run out of room. So let me do it again from this point. I'm going to rise 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to run 1. Now, let's say your teacher says, you must have 4 points, not 3. Well, you can go back to your B, you can drop 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you can run to the left. You can drop 3, 1, 2, 3, but then run to the left. And then when you do that, you can go ahead and put your line through that. Let me get a solid line here. And you can just make sure that all of your points perfectly get in that line. If you had a point out here, you knew you did something wrong. And you're done. Now, number 4 may seem a little tricky, but it's actually not tricky at all. Let's just go ahead and write our M and our B. So M and B. Well, what number is M? M is the number in front of X. It's the coefficient of X or the multiplier of X. However you look at it, M is going to be negative 1/4. Now, what is B? I don't see a number that's being added or subtracted to X. Well, what kind of number you don't see when you're adding and subtracting it and it's gone? Then it is plus 0. If it's not there and you're adding or subtracting, it's a 0. If it's not there and you're multiplying, it's a 1. But when you're adding and subtracting and it's not there, it's a 0. So your B is 0. And so now you're ready to go ahead and graph it. So you put a point at 0 for your B because it's 0, 0. And you use your slope to make more points. Well, what do? In this case, we're going to drop 1 because it's negative, and we're always going to run to the right if we have room. So drop 1, run 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe we can do that again. Ooh, I've run out of room. I don't have enough room here. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to rise 1, but then I'm going to run to the left. Rise 1, run left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we don't want to run to the left unless we run out of room. And then we're ready to make our line. So it should look just like that with a negative slope. I know the slope is negative, and I know this right arrow faces down. So Mr. Mathagi would be happy that this is a negative slope. And we're done. Alright, so for number 5, it says we have the value Y in dollars of a business card after X years. And they give us this equation right here. We want to interpret the slope and the X-intercept. Well, the slope is easy. The slope is the number in front of the X. So the slope is equal to negative 4,200. Now, what does that mean? That means, since it's negative, this is the amount of money you're losing each year. So for the slope, I would interpret this by saying you lose $4,200 in value each year for the car. Each year for the car. And that would make sense. As you drive a car, the more years you drive it, the less it's worth, right? Older cars are usually worth less than newer cars. Now, what about the, and I'm going to say X-Intercept. I almost made a mistake. The X-Intercept, not the Y-Intercept, the X-Intercept. Well, what is the X-Intercept? That's when Y equals 0. The X-Intercept is when Y equals 0. So I need to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 in for Y. Okay, and then solve for X. So I say 0 equals negative 4,200 X plus 21,000. And now I'm just simply going to just solve for X. So what do I do first? I subtract 21,000 from both sides. Subtract 21,000 from both sides. So I get negative 21,000 equals negative 42,000 X. 4,200X, not 1,000. There's not 3 zeros, Mr. Roden. On that one, there's just 2. Okay, so now what I want to do is get X by itself, so I'm simply just going to divide 4,200, or 4,200, on both sides, negative 4,200. Alright, so when you do all the math and everything, you get X equals 5. So 4,200 goes into 21,000 5 times, and I'll let you do that long division. So 5 years. So what does that mean? It means that, you probably want to write this down, the car will be worth $0 in 5 years. And that's what that means, the X-intercept. Now, if it was the Y-intercept, it would mean the car is worth $21,000 if you didn't drive it at all after 0 years. And when the X-intercept means that the car is going to be worth 0 in 5 years. And we're done. Alright, so number 6 says, write the linear equation in slope-intercept form. Well, what is slope-intercept form? Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Alright, so that just simply means that y needs to be by itself. That's what slope-intercept form is. Y is by itself on the left side, and mx plus b is on the other side. So we're just going to put it in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 2 x's from both sides. I'm going to subtract 2 x's from both sides. Now, when I do that, these 2 x's cancel, and we get 4y equals negative 2x plus 12. Okay? Now, after that, you're going to solve for y by dividing everything by 4. Everything by 4. Everything by 4. So, 4's cancel. So now I think we're in pretty good shape. Now, let's go ahead and fix this up a little bit. Negative 2 over 4 reduces to negative 1/2. X plus, what's 12 divided by 4? Well, yeah, you guessed it, that's 3. So your equation is equal to, in slope-intercept form, y equals negative 1/2 x plus 3. And we're done, because you don't have to graph this one. Now this one, they actually want us to put it in slope-intercept form and then graph it. But that's no big deal. We can do that. So let me just recopy the equation over here where I have a little room to work. So I have 3x plus 2y equals 8. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3 x's from both sides. Because remember, what I want to do is get this y by itself. Isolate that y, and I want to get rid of addition and subtraction first. So now I have 2y equals the negative 3x plus the 8 that was there. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to get rid of multiplication by 2 by dividing everything by 2. I want to divide everything by 2. So the 2's cancel. So now I get y equals, now negative 3 over 2 is a perfectly fine fraction. It's improper, but we don't mind improper as long as it's reduced. So it is. So negative 3 over 2x plus, what's 8 divided by 2? Well, yeah, that's just 4. So there we go. Negative 3 over 2x plus 4. Now we need to graph it. Well, first thing we do is we graph the y-intercept. And what's the y-intercept on this equation? Yeah, you guessed it. It's 4. So it's right there. Y-intercept. It's 0, 4. And then we're going to use the slope to make more points. So we're going to drop 3. 1, 2, 3. Run 2. And we always run to the right if we have room. 1, 2. Let's do it again. Drop 3. 1, 2, 3. Run 2. 1, 2. And I think that's good. I think 3 points can get the job done. So I'm going to go ahead and make my line just like that. And I'm done. And that would make sense because it's a negative slope and my right arrow is facing down. So I'm done. Alright, so for number 8, it just wants us to find the X and Y-intercepts. So I'm going to kind of break this up into 2 little sides. So for the X-intercept, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make y equal to 0, and then I'm going to solve for x. Solve for x. There's 4x. And then on the y-intercept, I'm going to make x equal to 0, and then I'm going to solve for y. Okay, so pretty simple stuff here, no big deal. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my x-intercept. So what is the x-intercept? I'm going to put a 0 in for y and solve for x. So I have negative 4x plus 5 times 0 equals 20. Now 5 times 0, that goes away to 0. I don't need to write that. So now I just have negative 4x equals 20. And then I divide both sides by negative 4. And those cancel out. So what do I get? I get x equals, now a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 20 divided by 4 is, what do we get here? We get -5. Okay, so for our x-intercept, we should probably write this as a coordinate. Remember, our y was 0, because we made y 0, and we just figured out that our x is -5. So this is the x-intercept. X-intercept. Okay, now let's do our y-intercept. Well, in this equation, we're going to recopy the equation, but we're going to make x equal to 0 this time. So instead of making y 0, we'll make x 0. That's just kind of how it goes. All right. With -4 times 0, that's gone. Don't need to write it. And so now I simply just have 5y equals 20. And when I solve for y, I'll just divide both sides by 5. And I get y equals 4. Okay, so we probably want to write that as a coordinate pair. So remember, x was 0 in this case, so the x value is 0, and the y value we found was 4. And we're done. So let's go ahead and do number 9. So let's find the x-intercept. Well, the x-intercept is just make y equal to 0. So 5x. Now, if I make y equal to 0, that just goes away. I don't need to write it because 0 times -3 is 0. So I'm just going to not write it and just put the 15 over here. And then I'll divide both sides by 5. And so I get x equals 3. Now, remember, guys, that we want to write it as an ordered pair. So x equals 3, but y was 0. So our x-intercept is at 3, 0 right there. Now let me change the color for the y-intercept. The y-intercept, we're going to make x equal to 0, and we'll solve for y. So if x equals 0, what do we get? That goes away, and so now we get -3y equals 15. We divide both sides by -3, and so y equals positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. So y equals -5. So let's see here. So we know x was 0. So we'll put a 0 for our x, and y is -5. 0, -5. So go ahead and graph that point right there, 0, -5. And now we're ready to put a line. How about a blue line for that? And it just goes like that. We're done. All right, let's read this last question. Your family is on a ski vacation. That's fun. Lift tickets for the family cost $80 a day. Okay, so snowboard rentals cost $40 a day. You purchase lift tickets for X days. Okay, so X equals your lift ticket. Lift ticket days. Lift ticket days, right? And let's see here. And Y, I'll change the color on that. Y equals your snowboard rental. Snowboard rental days. SBR, snowboard rental days. Okay? All right. So you purchase lift tickets for X days and snowboard rentals for Y days. You spend a total of $480. Okay, well, we can do that. That's not too bad. So we know that lift tickets cost $80 a day, and we don't know how many days we did. So we can say 80 times the number of lift ticket days we used. And snowboard rentals cost $40 a day, and that's why. So we're going to add to that $40 a day in lift tickets, and what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, that equals $480. So that's our equation in standard form. 80x plus 40y equals 480. Now, the last thing we want to do is find the X and Y-intercepts. Well, to find the X-intercept, we'll make Y equal to 0 and solve for X. So let's find, the X-intercept, I'll just kind of do this off to the side. So we're going to make Y equal to 0, and I'm even going to put the 0 for Y right now so I don't forget, and then we'll just solve it for X. So if we find the X-intercept, this is going to be 0 because Y is 0, so we'll have 80X equals 480. And then we'll divide both sides by 80. Divide both sides by 80. And let's see here. 8 goes into 48, 6 times? So 80 goes into 486 times. So we know the X-intercept is going to be 6, 0. Now let's find our Y-intercept. Okay, so remember with the Y-intercept, X equals 0, and we solve for Y. Okay, so in this case, we make X equal to 0, so that'll just cancel that out because 0 times 80 is 0, and so we'll come up with the equation of 40 40Y equals 480. Now, we'll divide both sides by 40, and I just happen to know that 4 goes into 48 12 times, so 40 will go into 480 12 times, and then 0, 12 is my Y-intercept. So this is my Y-intercept. And I'm done. So hopefully this was helpful, and you'll have a test coming up in the next few days, probably next week sometime, and so make sure you study, and good luck. See you later. Bye.